Here is something Buddhism understood about the mind more than 2,000 years ago, long before the modern world turned overthinking into a way of life. The thoughts are not the real problem. Something much deeper is, and once you see it, everything changes. It means the way most people try to silence the mind, stop thinking, and control their emotions begins from the wrong place. Buddhist teachings describe the restless mind as one that constantly wanders, clings, and resists. It replays conversations that are already over. It worries about a future that hasn't arrived. It revives fears you thought you had already overcome, and no matter how hard you fight it, it keeps returning. But Buddhist wisdom offers a completely different path, not fighting the mind, but understanding it. And that understanding is where real calmness begins. 1. Thoughts never ask permission. Everything you've been told about silencing the mind may be making it louder. You keep trying to stop thoughts, push them away, or replace them with better ones. But every battle quietly tells the mind that every thought matters. Therefore, the noise grows stronger. A quiet question waits beneath this struggle. If thoughts arrive on their own, why do you keep calling them my thoughts? Stay with that question because the answer changes everything. A monk once watched the evening sky without speaking. Clouds drifted across the fading light, yet the sky never chased them away. Your mind is much like that open space. Thoughts appear without asking permission, just as birds pass through an open window. But no bird builds a nest unless someone keeps feeding it. What arrives without invitation should not become your identity. The real burden is rarely the thought itself. The burden begins the moment you sign your name beneath it. But who is quietly noticing that signature? Think about your ordinary day. A single thought whispers, "I am not enough." Another says, "Something terrible will happen." They arrive unexpectedly, but you welcome them as truth. Therefore, one passing visitor slowly becomes your entire story. This is how peace disappears. Not because the mind creates thoughts, but because awareness forgets it has the freedom to simply observe. The answer is getting closer, but one small truth is still waiting to be seen. The old Buddhist teaching reminds us the quietest mind is not the one with the fewest thoughts. It is the one that no longer obeys them. Notice how different that feels. You are not asked to control the river. You are only invited to stop jumping into its current. Sit quietly for 1 minute today. As each thought appears, gently whisper, arriving, leaving. Do not resist, do not follow, simply witness. Therefore, the space between you and the thought becomes visible. Ask yourself with complete honesty, which thought today did you automatically call me? Who owned your mind before you noticed it? If thoughts come freely, what truly belongs to you? The greatest battle is not inside your mind. It begins the moment you believe every thought deserves your attention. Therefore, choose awareness over attachment, because a strong, disciplined mind is built by observing thoughts, not becoming them. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My silence attract more." 2. Every battle feeds the fire. Have you noticed how the thoughts you fear the most always seem to return? You promise yourself you will never think about them again, but they appear with even greater force. Everything inside you wants to push them away, but every moment of resistance quietly whispers to the mind, "This matters, bring it back." Therefore, the struggle itself becomes the hidden source of suffering. If fighting is not the answer, what has been overlooked all this time? A teacher once placed a small candle in front of his students as darkness settled over the mountains. "Do not fight the flame," he said softly. 3. Watch what keeps feeding it. Your attention works the same way. Attention is water. Whatever you pour it on will grow. A painful thought cannot remain powerful without the energy you unknowingly give it. But this is the subtle truth many seekers miss because they mistake resistance for strength. So ask yourself once more, who is actually noticing the thought? Imagine pulling weeds from a garden while holding them tightly in your hands. Their seeds scatter deeper into the soil. The mind behaves in much the same way. Every argument, every desperate attempt to erase a thought plants it more firmly into awareness. The prison is not built by the thought itself. Therefore, it is built by the endless negotiations you continue having with it. What if the door has never been locked? The old Buddhist insight quietly points in another direction. Freedom does not arrive when every thought disappears. Freedom appears when the need to wrestle with every thought finally dissolves. The realization feels almost too simple, but simplicity often hides the deepest wisdom. Therefore, peace waits where force quietly comes to an end. The next time a difficult thought appears, do nothing heroic. Relax your shoulders. Let the thought stand beside you like a stranger waiting for a train. You do not need to greet it. You do not need to chase it away. Simply remain present while it comes and while it leaves. Reflect with honesty. Which thought grows stronger every time you resist it? What if your struggle has been feeding it? Perhaps the first sound of inner silence is not the absence of thought, but the end of resistance. 3. Certainty is the hidden addiction. What if overthinking has never been about solving your problems? You may believe your endless analysis is making you safer, wiser, or more prepared. But look carefully. Every answer your mind finds quickly gives birth to another question. Therefore, the search never truly ends. Something deeper is asking to be seen. Why does the mind keep demanding certainty from a life that has never promised it? A monk once sat beside a traveler who could not stop worrying about tomorrow's journey. The traveler asked for reassurance again and again, hoping one perfect answer would calm his heart. The monk simply smiled and said, "The mind asks for tomorrow because it fears today." Those words settled into the silence like leaves upon still water. The traveler realized he had not been searching for wisdom. He had been bargaining with uncertainty. But who was quietly watching this bargain unfold? Overthinking often disguises fear as preparation. It whispers that one more thought will finally make everything safe. Yet, every new thought leaves you needing another. It is like drinking salty water to satisfy thirst. The more you consume, the stronger the craving becomes. Therefore, the exhaustion you feel is not created by life itself. It is created by chasing guarantees that reality cannot provide. This silent hunger governs countless lives without ever announcing its name. Buddhist wisdom gently points toward a different path. Peace is not found by forcing tomorrow to reveal itself today. Peace begins when you stop demanding certainty before allowing yourself to breathe. The future has always been uncertain, but suffering grows when the mind refuses to make room for that truth. Therefore, the question slowly changes from "how can I control what comes next" to "can I fully meet this moment without running from it?" Right now, feel your feet resting on the ground. Notice the quiet support beneath you. Ask yourself with complete honesty what danger exists in this exact moment. Stay with the answer without rushing. Reflect gently. Are you seeking real answers or avoiding uncertainty? How much of your thinking protects imagined futures? Perhaps uncertainty has never been your enemy. Perhaps it has been the patient teacher waiting for you to stop asking the mind for promises only presence can give. 4. The cage is invisible. Why do some of the most intelligent people feel the most imprisoned by their own minds? They can solve difficult problems, understand complex ideas, even guide others through uncertainty. But when they are alone, one thought becomes another until the mind feels like a room with no doors. Therefore, the real trap is rarely a lack of intelligence. It is the quiet belief that every thought must be understood before peace can exist. But who first made that agreement? A monk once found a bird sitting inside an old cage whose door had been left open for many days. The bird looked toward the endless sky, yet never moved. The cage had disappeared, but fear remained. Your mind can become the same. Invisible agreements slowly replace visible walls. I must solve every thought. I must understand every feeling. I must never be uncertain. Each agreement adds another silent bar. Therefore, the prison grows stronger without making a sound. The deepest chains are not forged by life. They are polished by repetition. Every time you obey the same fearful belief without questioning it, the mind quietly whispers, "This is who I am." But Buddhist wisdom invites a different response. Chains disappear the moment you stop polishing them. The thought may still appear, but your devotion to it can quietly come to an end. Therefore, freedom begins long before the thought disappears. This is the subtle truth that many seekers overlook. They spend years searching for a peaceful mind, but rarely question the beliefs that keep the search alive. The thought is not holding the key. Your unquestioned agreement with it is. Therefore, ask again with patience rather than force. Who is actually noticing the thought? The answer has been waiting beneath every moment of awareness. Today, notice one belief that returns again and again. Do not argue with it. Do not defend it. Simply ask, is this absolutely true? Sit with the silence that follows. Reflect with honesty. Which belief has quietly become your prison? What thought have you never challenged? If the cage opened today, would you leave? The first step toward inner freedom is not escaping the mind. It is discovering that the door was never locked by the thought, but by the belief that it always had to be believed. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My silence, attract more." 5. Meet the silent witness. If your thoughts change from one moment to the next, what has remained unchanged through your entire life? Joy arrives and fades. Fear rises and falls. Memories appear without warning, but disappear again. Therefore, something has been quietly present through every experience. You have spent years watching thoughts come and go, but perhaps you have rarely turned toward the one who notices them. Stay with this question a little longer, because it carries the realization the mind cannot manufacture. A monk once pointed toward a mountain while dark clouds gathered across the valley. Wind bent the trees. Rain covered the path. The mountain never argued with the storm, never chased the clouds, never asked the sky to become clear. It simply remained. Your awareness is much like that mountain. Thoughts may rush across it. Emotions may thunder through it. But the observer never becomes what it observes. The observer never trembles with what it observes. Therefore, the peace you seek has never been absent. It has simply been overlooked. This is the subtle truth many people miss while searching for silence. They believe silence is something the mind must create. Therefore, they struggle harder, hoping one perfect technique will erase every thought. But awareness does not need a perfect mind to exist. Even in the middle of fear, something quietly recognizes, fear is here. Even during confusion, something gently knows, confusion is present. But who is quietly speaking without using words? The old Buddhist teaching does not ask you to become someone new. It gently invites you to stop mistaking passing experiences for your deepest nature. Thoughts are visitors. Emotions are weather. Awareness is the sky that never loses its openness. Therefore, freedom begins the moment you rest as the witness instead of the passing storm. Close your eyes for a few moments. Do not search for silence. Listen to every sound around you. Notice every feeling inside you. Instead of following them, ask softly, What is already aware of all this? Remain there without forcing an answer. Reflect with complete honesty. Who noticed your last thought? Can awareness itself become anxious? What has remained constant since childhood? Perhaps the silence you have been chasing was never hiding. It has been patiently watching your entire life, waiting for you to notice the one who has always been noticing. 6. Letting go is not losing. Why do so many people fear letting go more than they fear the suffering they carry every day? You may hold tightly to a relationship, a memory, a dream, or even an old version of yourself, because releasing it feels like losing part of your life. But look closely. The pain often comes not from change itself, but from the desperate effort to prevent what has always been changing. Therefore, the question is no longer, how do I keep this forever? It becomes, why am I afraid to open my hand? A monk once stood beside a river at sunset with his disciples. The water never argued with the stones in its path. It never turned back to reclaim the shore it had already passed. Therefore, it eventually reached the ocean. An open hand holds more than a closed fist. Those words settled into every listening heart. The river did not lose itself by flowing forward. It fulfilled its nature by refusing to cling to yesterday. Many people mistake attachment for love. They believe holding on proves devotion. But attachment often whispers, "Do not leave me. Do not change. Do not disappear." Genuine presence asks for something quieter. It simply says, "I am grateful you are here." Therefore, love becomes lighter when it is no longer chained to possession. The deepest suffering is rarely created by loving someone. It grows from demanding that life remain exactly as it is. This is the turning point that many seekers overlook. They spend years trying to protect themselves from loss. But every attempt to control the uncontrollable quietly creates more fear. Therefore, letting go is not abandoning life. It is releasing your grip on what was never yours to keep forever. But who is actually afraid of the change? The silent awareness? Or the mind searching for permanence? Right now, close your hand into a tight fist. Hold it for 10 slow seconds. Feel the tension spreading through your fingers, your wrist, your arm. Now slowly release it. Notice how your entire body softens without effort. Let that simple movement become your teacher. Reflect with honesty. What are you exhausting yourself trying to keep? Is your love rooted in fear? What becomes lighter when you loosen your grip? Inner peace does not ask you to own life. It quietly invites you to receive each moment fully, therefore releasing it with the same gentle gratitude. 7. Silence cannot be manufactured. Why does the harder you chase silence, the louder your mind seems to become? You sit down determined to find peace, but every passing thought feels like another failure. Soon, you are no longer listening to your mind. You are judging it. Therefore, the search for silence quietly becomes another form of struggle. Yet, if effort keeps creating more noise, what has been misunderstood from the very beginning? An old monk once carried a bowl of water across a quiet temple courtyard. A young disciple asked how to make the cloudy water become clear. The monk smiled, but did nothing. He simply placed the bowl on the ground. Slowly, without command or force, the mud settled to the bottom. The water revealed its own clarity. Stillness arrives where effort bows. The disciple expected a technique. Instead, he witnessed a truth. Therefore, peace was never created. It appeared when interference ended. Many people unknowingly turn meditation into another competition. They measure each session, hoping for fewer thoughts, deeper calm, or perfect concentration. But the mind immediately invents another goal to pursue. Therefore, the chase never truly ends. The greatest obstacle is not the thought that appears. It is the quiet belief that this moment should be different from what it is. But who is noticing that belief without becoming trapped by it? This is the spiritual turning point that many overlook. Silence is not another achievement to collect. It is not a reward for controlling the mind. It quietly reveals itself when the endless habit of chasing finally comes to rest. Thoughts may still arrive, emotions may still visit. Therefore, awareness no longer treats them as enemies. Like clouds crossing a vast sky, they come because that is their nature. They leave for the same reason. Today, sit for a few moments without trying to meditate. Do not reach for a special experience. Do not force your breathing. Let every sound, every sensation, every thought exist exactly as it is. Notice how life continues without your constant interference. Reflect honestly. What are you forcing today? Has your search become another distraction? What if peace has been waiting for the moment you stop searching? The deepest silence has never hidden from you. It has been patiently resting beneath every effort, waiting for you to stop stirring the water and simply see what has always been there. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My silence attract more." 8. Presence ends time's illusion. Why does your body remain here while your mind keeps traveling somewhere else? One moment, it returns to an old conversation, searching for words that can never be spoken again. The next moment, it races toward a future that has not yet arrived. Therefore, you begin living everywhere except the only place where life is actually unfolding. If your thoughts keep borrowing pain from yesterday and fear from tomorrow, who is quietly standing in the present, watching them pass? A monk once lit a single candle as evening settled over the temple. He looked at the flame and said, "A candle never burns yesterday's flame." The light existed only in that living moment. It never reached backward. It never rushed forward. Life has never happened anywhere except now. Those words were simple, but they carried a truth the restless mind often refuses to accept. Therefore, peace has never belonged to the past or the future. It has always waited in the unnoticed space of this moment. The mind believes that endless thinking will eventually repair yesterday or protect tomorrow. But no amount of thinking can rewrite what has already passed. No amount of worrying can completely control what has not yet come. Therefore, psychological time quietly becomes one of the greatest creators of unnecessary suffering. You are not exhausted because this moment is unbearable. You are exhausted because your attention keeps living inside moments that do not exist anymore. This is the quiet realization many seekers overlook. Every sincere return to the present weakens the illusion that time owns your inner world. Awareness does not need yesterday to recognize itself. It does not wait for tomorrow to become complete. Therefore, ask once again with gentle curiosity. Who is noticing the movement of the mind without moving with it? The answer has been resting beneath every breath. Pause for a few moments. Listen carefully to the next 3 sounds around you without giving them names. Simply hear them as they are. Feel the quiet contact between your feet and the ground. Notice your breathing without trying to improve it. Reflect honestly. Where has your mind wandered today? What exists right now without memory? How much suffering truly survives inside this exact moment? Presence is not an escape from life. It is the place where the illusion of time loses its power, therefore revealing the silent peace that has always been here, waiting for your attention. 9. Peace is recognition. What if peace is not something you must create, but something you have quietly overlooked? Your entire life may have been spent trying to become calm, become whole, become free. But every attempt began with the belief that something essential was missing. Therefore, the search itself kept the feeling of separation alive. A deeper truth has been waiting beneath all this effort. If peace has never been absent, what have you truly been searching for? A monk gently wiped the dust from an old mirror resting in the corner of a temple. He did not build its reflection. He simply removed what had covered it. The mirror had never lost its nature. Your awareness is the same. Thoughts may move across it like clouds passing through a clear sky, but the sky is never harmed by the weather. Truth waits beneath every unnecessary thought. Therefore, your deepest peace does not need to be created. It only needs to be recognized. This is the quiet realization hidden beneath every principle you have explored. Thoughts arrive without permission. Resistance gives them strength. Certainty becomes an endless hunger. Invisible beliefs become a cage. The silent witness patiently observes it all. Letting go softens your grip. Stillness appears when chasing comes to an end. Presence dissolves the illusion of psychological time. Therefore, every path has been pointing toward the same discovery. You are not the passing movement of the mind. You are the awareness that has never stopped noticing it. Sit quietly for one final moment. Watch one thought appear. Do nothing with it. Do not complete it. Do not replace it with a better thought. Simply allow it to fade on its own. Notice what remains after the thought is gone. The space does not disappear. Awareness does not disappear. It quietly remains, just as it always has. Reflect with complete honesty. What remains after a thought disappears? Have you mistaken mental noise for your identity? What has never truly left you? The greatest battle was never inside your mind. It began the moment you believed every thought deserved your attention. Build a strong and disciplined mind by returning to awareness instead of chasing thought. Silence was never something you had to create. It was always what remained after misidentification came to an end. 10. Stop becoming every thought. What is the greatest illusion your mind has ever taught you? It is not that you have too many thoughts. It is the quiet belief that every thought is describing who you are. One moment you feel confident. The next moment you feel broken, simply because a different voice appeared inside your mind. Therefore, your identity keeps changing with every passing thought. But if your identity changes every minute, who has been present through every change? A monk once watched a traveling theatre perform in the village square. One actor became a king. Moments later, he became a beggar. By sunset, he played a grieving father. The audience laughed and cried, yet the actor remained the same person beneath every costume. Your mind behaves in a similar way. Thoughts constantly offer new roles for you to wear. The failure, the victim, the hero, the fearful child. But not every voice deserves your face. The deepest suffering begins when awareness forgets it is watching a performance and starts believing it has become the character. This is the hidden illusion that quietly shapes countless lives. One thought whispers, "You are not enough." Another says, "You will never change." Without noticing it, you step into those roles and begin living from them. Therefore, a passing mental event becomes an entire identity. Yet thoughts have never asked permission to appear, so why should they be allowed to define the one who notices them? Buddhist wisdom points toward a freedom that cannot be given by the world. Liberation begins the moment awareness stops wearing every mental costume that appears. Thoughts may continue to visit. Emotions may continue to rise and fall. Therefore, you no longer become everything that moves through your mind. Like the open sky welcoming every cloud, awareness remains untouched by every changing form. The next time a thought appears, pause before believing it. Breathe gently and whisper, "This is a visitor, not my identity." Let those words settle into your heart without force. Reflect with complete honesty. Which role are you tired of performing? What would remain if every label disappeared? Who are you before the next thought arrives? Build a strong and disciplined mind by recognizing the witness instead of the costume. The moment you stop becoming every thought is the moment your deepest freedom quietly begins. We would love to hear your thoughts. If you are not sure what to say, just type, "My silence attracts more." Bonus: live from the quiet center. If silence is only the beginning, what comes after? Many people imagine awakening as reaching a place where no thought ever returns. But life continues. Joy still visits. Sorrow still arrives. Questions still appear. Therefore, true transformation is not an empty mind. It is a life that is no longer divided against itself. The mind may continue speaking, but it no longer sits on the throne. Awareness quietly becomes the place from which you live. An old monk stood beside a lake beneath the full moon. The water rippled with every passing breeze, yet the moon never argued with the waves reflecting it. It simply remained where it had always been. Your life can become like that. Thoughts may disturb the surface. Emotions may rise without warning, but the quiet center within you does not need to resist either one. Freedom begins when nothing inside you needs to win. Therefore, peace is no longer a destination waiting somewhere in the future. It becomes the ground beneath every ordinary moment. This is the final realization hidden inside every lesson. Thoughts never ask permission to arrive. Fighting them only feeds them. Chasing certainty creates more hunger. Invisible beliefs build a prison. The silent witness remains untouched. Letting go opens the heart. Presence dissolves the illusion of time. Peace reveals itself through recognition. Therefore, silence was never the final goal. It was the doorway into living with an undivided heart. Today, walk a little more slowly than usual. Do not try to become wiser. Do not measure your progress. Do not search for a perfect state of mind. Simply notice each step arriving exactly once. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Listen to the quiet space between sounds. Let each breath remind you that this moment has never happened before and will never happen again. Life asks only for your presence. Before you leave, reflect with complete honesty. If nothing inside you needed fixing, how would you live today? What decision would peace make instead of fear? Could awareness become your way of life instead of only your occasional practice? If this journey spoke to your heart, carry these teachings into your next ordinary moment. A strong and disciplined mind is not built by defeating thoughts. It is built by returning again and again to the quiet center that has always been your true home. The deepest prison was never the mind. It was the belief that every thought is me. The moment that illusion ends, silence is no longer something to achieve. It becomes the place from which life is lived. Quick summary. Thoughts never asked permission. Thoughts arise naturally. They are not personal possessions. Suffering begins when you mistake every thought for your identity. You are not responsible for every thought that appears. Freedom begins when observation replaces ownership. Every battle feeds the fire. Resisting thoughts gives them more importance and energy. The mind repeats what it believes deserves attention. Fighting your mind creates a second layer of suffering. Peace begins the moment resistance ends. Certainty is the hidden addiction. Overthinking is often the search for impossible certainty. The mind keeps asking questions because it fears the unknown. No amount of thinking can remove life's uncertainty. Calmness grows when you become comfortable with not knowing. The cage is invisible. The greatest prison is built from unquestioned beliefs. Most limitations exist because we never challenge them. Your mind obeys the stories you repeatedly believe. Freedom begins the moment one false belief collapses. Meet the silent witness. Behind every thought exists silent awareness. Awareness observes thoughts without becoming them. This inner presence has always been peaceful. Knowing the observer changes your entire relationship with the mind. Letting go is not losing. Detachment is not emotional distance. It is inner freedom. Holding too tightly creates unnecessary suffering. Real love flows without fear of losing. A peaceful mind knows when to release its grip. Silence cannot be manufactured. Silence cannot be forced through effort. The harder you chase peace, the further it seems. The mind settles naturally when it is no longer controlled. Stillness is discovered, not created. Presence ends time's illusion. The mind lives in memories and imagined futures. Life only unfolds in the present moment. Every return to the present weakens anxiety. Awareness transforms ordinary moments into profound peace. Peace is recognition. Peace has never been missing. It is hidden beneath constant identification with thought. Nothing new needs to be created. You simply uncover what has always been present. Not every thought deserves your belief. Thoughts are experiences, not your identity. Inner freedom begins when you stop becoming every mental story. The mind loses power when awareness stops following it. Live from the quiet center. The goal is not an empty mind, but a liberated life. Thoughts may continue, but they no longer control you. Awareness becomes your foundation instead of your destination. This is where genuine peace begins to shape everyday living. Perhaps the greatest illusion of human life is believing that every thought deserves to be believed. The mind has spent years convincing you that peace will come only after you solve every fear, answer every question, and silence every voice within. But Zen points in the opposite direction. It teaches that the sky has never struggled with its clouds, and awareness has never struggled with its thoughts. The moment you stop trying to conquer your mind, you discover that the peace you were searching for was quietly watching you all along. The quieter the mind becomes, the more clearly life reveals itself. Carry this Zen reflection with you today. Do not ask, "How do I stop thinking?" Ask instead, "Who is aware of these thoughts?" That single question can gently shift your entire way of living, from endless reaction to effortless presence, from mental noise to unshakable inner stillness. If this video touched your heart, please like and share it with someone who needs a little more peace today. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We would love to hear your journey. For more inspiring Buddhist insights, timeless philosophy, and practical guidance on living a peaceful, awakened life,